All right, so this is what I look like when, like that's Sarah. And we were in Palm Springs, and I mean, I didn't look that bad, but I didn't look great. I mean, I certainly didn't look like a bodybuilder, like I had set in my goal. So now I meet Franco Colombo. He's one of the strongest men who ever lived. He's got a nice dog, too. And huge muscles and everything else. And he was a chiropractor. And his office was in Westwood, and he said, we design bodybuilding programs. So I made an appointment, July 31st, 1981. And I went in and saw Franco. And he was just a monster. I didn't realize he was just about to win the Mr. Olympia contest. But he said, okay, take off your shirt. I was really embarrassed. So I took off my shirt and I looked like, you know, you just saw. And he said, okay, let me design a program. So he wrote out a program. And then he wrote out a dietary thing. You know, his basic diet thing was, he was Mediterranean. He's from Sardinia. So he says, eat lots of fish, lean meats, pasta, fruits, vegetables, nuts. And he said if it's wrapped, don't try to avoid it. If it's in a can, try to avoid it. If it's processed, try to avoid it. If it's whole foods, eat that. I mean, that's healthy. So it wasn't anything like I remember once saying, "What do you think about bacon and eggs?" And he said, "Yeah, a little good. I mean, a little bit is okay." He said, "Don't eat just egg whites. Eat the whole egg because that's how the yolk actually is the good cholesterol." And I think studies since then have proved him right. And there was a long period where a lot of nutritionists were saying that's not true. But I think now the good fats, people recognize coconut oil, olive oil, egg yolks, they have some properties of good fats, certainly nuts. So I saw Franco, he gave me the routine, and I started doing it. And it was about an hour and a half, 4 days a week. And I signed up at Gold's Gym. This was the one in Venice. And it was okay. It was pretty good. I met some interesting guys. I remember talking to one guy, Dan Duchesne, who couldn't have been nicer. This was like at 5 in the morning. I was like Rick Satori. I go in really early. And Dan was telling me, look, if you want to make progress, you got to get on steroids. There's no other way. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm working with Franco Colombo, and he didn't mention anything about steroids. And Dan said, you know, I'm writing a book about it, and it's the easy way. You can do it in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. You'll look like Mr. Universe. I said, no, I just want to work out. So, but I like Dan. He could not have been nicer. I've read about him on Google. He actually wound up in prison for selling steroids, and then he died young from some kind of something. It's a sad story because you could never meet a sweeter guy who was well-intentioned. I mean, his whole thing was, this is scientific and it works and so on. And I said, no, it's not for me. All right. After about 2 or 3 months of dieting and working out, I went back to see Franco, my personal trainer. When I think of personal trainers today, you know, they stand and they watch every set and every rep, and I never really understood that. I've talked to one, some of you may know him, Mike Myers. He told me that, I said, well, why do you have to watch them do every rep? And he said, it's amazing. Like, I'll have somebody with dumbbells, and I'll say, do dumbbell presses, or I might have them do a little art. And he said, and they go like this. And I said, how do they go like this? You know, that's so unnatural. But he said, they do. And so, anyway, but Franco didn't believe in that. He believed in just a good program, and the person should be a good student. All right, so I go back to Franco. He says, all right, take off your shirt. And his eyes, he was very expressive, Italian. He said, I cannot believe how good you look. I cannot believe it. Anita, that was his wife. Come here, you got to see this. You should have seen him 2 months ago. And it was true. I had made a lot of progress. And at the time, of course, oh my gosh, I was on cloud 9. I never felt so good. And I thought, whoa, am I motivated to keep doing this? Now, at age 65, looking back, what happened? Why that big change? One thing is something called muscle memory. Muscle memory means if you, just in layman's terms, if you do something and you get good at it, you get proficient, and then you stop doing it for a long period of time. Let's take riding a bicycle. If you ride a bicycle throughout childhood, and then you don't ride a bike for 10 years, and then you're with friends, you're down at the beach, and you rent a bike. Maybe in the first 5 to 15 minutes, you're a little bit wobbly. But eventually, within half an hour, you're back to where you were 10 years ago because of muscle memory. If you had never ridden a bike and you go at age 35 and get on one, you're not going to be within 30 minutes riding a bike comfortably, but because you don't have the muscle memory. And Franco thought he didn't know about those 3 years when I was totally into bodybuilding. And I didn't realize about muscle memory why I made so much progress so rapidly. But that's what was going on. So then he said, within I kept seeing him every couple months, and we became friends. And then Arnold, I would see at World. I switched to World Gym. Joe Gold founded the original Gold's Gym. He was a welder. He made great equipment, and it wasn't expensive, and it was just a wonderful atmosphere for working out. Joe then sold Gold's Gym, went off to I think he'd been a merchant marine, he went off to sea, and he came back and was kind of bored, and he started World Gym. And this was 1978, I signed up at World Gym, and this was now 81, I was going seriously because of Franco. And I would see Arnold almost every morning at World Gym, and Arnold couldn't have been nicer. We went to breakfast a few times, I asked him advice before I bought my first house. And he always, he was very sensible. Like I was thinking about buying a house in Westchester, near our old office, near the airport. And he said, well, if I were thinking about that, I would drive my car over maybe at 5 o'clock some morning, park in front of the house or near it, and keep the windows down and just listen for airplane noise. And if that bothers you, don't buy it. If it doesn't bother you, then it's a good test. I was very intrigued by that's the way he approaches things. I remember when I was at the Los Angeles Times, and I invited Arnold into the executive dining room, and he was telling me that he owned all these apartment buildings in Santa Monica. And I said, Arnold, I gotta, you came over here 10 years ago, not knowing English, an Austrian farm boy, no education, and now you're a multimillionaire and you own apartment buildings. I grew up, with a lot of advantages. Went to college, started getting a master's degree. Working now as an executive at the Los Angeles Times. I would be terrified to own an apartment building in Santa Monica. What if people call and say, hey, my plumbing broke on Sunday night when I don't want to be disturbed? And he said, oh, you can't look at life that way. You just hire a property manager and you tell them, and then when the people leave, you slap on a coat of paint and get somebody else in. And his whole perspective was big perspective. We can do it. So I learned a lot from him and was very inspired by all that. As time went on, now I'm working out. This was a picture Franco took. That was from the old days. I love this sort of before and after. But you see, on the perseverance thing, I quit when I was probably 14 then. And you could see how I was actually getting little muscles, and if I had stuck with it then, I could have looked like that at maybe 16. But I didn't. I gave up and then came back. So that's the point about perseverance, that whole thing of grit we heard yesterday. You've got to hang in there, because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. As long as you keep coming back, you have a chance.